The story begins as we see a band of red ogres attacking a town. The people cower in fear, and as the monsters approach, a dragon can be seen flying overhead. A man on the dragon's back chants, and hundreds of paper talismans descend onto the ogres. A talisman stops in front of each ogre, and there is a devastating chain of explosions that destroys even a part of the town. One of the ogres survive, but it gets eaten by the dragon with a single bite. We learn that this is the world's strongest exorcist, who sought to be the greatest, but his search for power led the imperial court to fear him, and in the end, they betrayed him, even sending his favorite disciple to oppose him. In his final moments, he wishes he was more cunning, casting a secret reincarnation spell and swearing to do things better in his next life. We then meet a boy named Seika in the middle of a magic circle. His father performs a ritual to examine his power, but none of the elemental stones light up, meaning he has no magical power, and his brother Glai mocks him for being an embarrassment. We learn that he was reborn into a new world, where magic is completely different from his past spiritual arts. Despite not having any mana, he senses great spiritual energy from his body. We see Seika as he gathers some leaves. Paper is too expensive, so he creates shikigami from the leaves instead. The leaves transform, with some turning into mice, and the others into crows. His brother Glai suddenly approaches, asking what he is up to. His brother looks down at him, threatening to hit him, but Seika's crows defend him. Their older brother, Luft, rushes over and chases off the crows. Noticing that Seika is unarmed, he is a little suspicious, but takes Glai to get treated. We see that Seika is learning about his new world on his own. He is the son of a mistress, which gives him lower status, so he is generally ignored at home. We see him working hard, as he makes his own paper, and is finally able to make his paper talisman. He gets a knock at the door, and we meet a young maid named Aoife, who returns his coat, which his brother had thrown out. Glai saunters in to taunt them, telling Aoife to get back to work, and bragging that he'll be going to the Imperial Magic Academy. As he is bragging, their father shows up, saying they need to get back to their training. Before they leave, Seika asks to join them. We see Luft as he casts his spell, creating a wind blade, and blasting through a large stone. Glai also shows off his magic, shooting a fireball at the target. Glai is proud of himself, and dares Seika to give it a try, believing that Seika has no power. Seika reluctantly takes the wand. On one hand, he doesn't want to reveal his power too soon, but on the other hand, he decides that a show of force might deter his brother from continuing to harass him. Using his spiritual arts, he fires a blue fireball, which completely destroys the target. The family is stunned at his power, and the fact he cast his spell without an incantation. Glai tries to take credit, saying it was his leftover power in the wand, but their father acknowledges Seika's abilities for the first time. Seika asks if he can also study magic, but his father refuses, saying it would be pointless, because there has never been a person born without magic that has become successful. However, he does give Seika a tutor, which gives him access to books, and Seika spends all his time trying to learn more about magic, even spying on his brother's lessons to keep up. As the years pass, Seika finally finishes his talisman. We learn that in his past, he would defeat demons and capture them, sealing them in another dimension to call upon later. He believes that even in this world, he would be able to summon his servants. As a test, he attempts to call on his most well-behaved demon. A door appears, and a young girl emerges. Seika doesn't quite recognize her, but the girl jumps on him, overjoyed to be reunited with him. The girl is introduced as Yuki, and she suggests that her appearance is different because his spiritual energy is lower than in the past. Seika is glad this was a success, and Yuki wonders how she can help him. Seika tells her it was just a test, and that she can't be seen by anyone else. Yuki transforms into a tiny wolf, saying she is sick of the other dimension, and insists on staying with him. The next day, we see Glai as he yells at Aoife for spilling water on him. But his tone changes, and he suggests that she can find a way to make it up to him. Seika comes to her rescue, saying he has business with Aoife. His brother gets annoyed with him, trying to punch him, but Seika easily stops him, and his brother storms away. Aoife thanks him, and ends up leading him outside, showing him an injured bunny. She wonders if they could save it, and Seika tells her to turn away so he can focus. He takes a hair from the creature, and using his talisman, he successfully heals it. Aoife praises his talents, and Seika can see that she is also special. Aoife gets nervous, but Seika can tell that she can see the spirits of animals. Hearing that he can also see the spirits, Aoife reveals she can actually see the elemental spirits. But she finds it strange that those spirits seem to actively avoid him. He asks Aoife if she can command these spirits, and she remembers one time when the wind spirits were taking her laundry, but she yelled at them, and they seemed to go away. Having studied this ability in his past, Seika can see Aoife's potential, and offers to teach her about magic. Aoife says she doesn't have the mana to use magic, but Seika tries to teach her by summoning a soul flame, and telling her to banish it. She tries asking it nicely, and has no luck, but she eventually loses her temper, insisting it disappear, and the flame vanishes. Although she is weak, Seika can see she will be a great ally in the future. They become friends, and secretly train together from time to time. They continue to train over the next year, throughout all the seasons. On Seika's 12th birthday, there is no celebration as usual, and his father isn't even around. He tries not to let it bother him, and surprisingly his brothers approach him with wooden swords. Glai, as usual, reminds him of his unworthiness, and tells him his only option in life is to join the army. Luff clarifies, and says that they want to help him learn how to fight with a sword. Suddenly, the mates warn them that a monster is headed toward the house and their father is away. Seika can sense that it's coming, as we see in the forest, the head of a giant elder newt emerging. Guile runs off terrified, and Luff tells everyone to find safety, but Seika heads outside, and we see that the beast is locked onto Aoife. Seika rushes to help, but as the monster attacks, it gets repelled by a flame. Seika is impressed Aoife managed to command the flame, and he proceeds to lure the beast away from the house. It lunges at him, as everyone looks on in terror, but using his spiritual arts, he shoots a poison blast into its face. The beast falls, rendered completely disabled by the poison, and Seika prepares to tame it. Everyone is amazed at the feat, defeating the elder newt with a single attack, and they applaud his victory. He turns and waves, glad that his family finally seems to appreciate him, and he hopes that this will be the start of the life he had dreamed of. He has a feast thrown for him for the first time, and his father congratulates him on his accomplishment, saying that even veteran adventurers would have found the beast challenging to face. His father offers to reward him, so Seika asks him to allow him to study magic at the Royal Academy. His father thinks to how he always diligently studied magic on his own, and agrees with the request. However, his father warns him that even though they are nobles, he will still need to pass the entrance exam on his own merits. Seika goes on to request for Aoife to attend the academy as well as his attendant, wanting to keep her unique ability around. Aoife panics hearing this, but his father tells him it would be pointless because Aoife has no magic. So Seika decides to show off their training. He hands Aoife his wand, instructing her to command as many spirit flames as she can and pretend to cast Flame Note. She commands the flames and follows his instruction. He can tell that it's her. They take the entrance exam, and Aoife worries about how she did, but Seika tells her she can make it up during the practical exam. During the practical, the examiner explains that there are targets set up for each of the different elements, and their score is the total of all the targets that they hit. The students proceed to chant their spells and fire at the targets, but Seika is not impressed by their attempts. It comes to Aoife's turn, and she uses her Flame Note spell, creating an enormous flame, and even causing the flame-resistant target to burn. Everyone is shocked she used intermediate magic without an incantation. Aoife continues on to the next target, using her Wind Lance spell, which completely destroys the target. She apologizes for the damage, and she is still nervous about passing, but Seika is amazed that she used wind magic, and she tells him she has been practicing on her own so she could surprise him. Seeing her growth, Seika starts to tear up. Seika gets called up for his turn, and the others gossip about him having no mana. But Seika shoots his fireball, and they are shocked by his blue flame. Seika moves on to the earth target, Using his knowledge in spiritual arts, he destroys the granite target by turning it into a crystal. The examiner panics, wondering what spell he just used, but Seika quickly moves on to the water target. Using one of his talismans, he uses his frozen arts, producing water, which he turns into a glacier. Everyone is left shocked, and Seika wonders if he overdid it. After the exam, the examiners are left in disbelief, especially since Aoife was measured to have weak magic, and Seika was meant to have no mana at all. They talk about all the exceptional students, and we see that Amu performed even better, completely destroying all 6 of the targets. They think that she could even be the hero that the legends say will appear when the Demon King is revived. A few days later, the results of the exam are posted, and Aoife worries about failing. Seika finds himself in 3rd place, and he wonders who could have beaten him. It turns out Aoife is in 2nd place, and Seika can't believe that she beat him. They see that Amma came first, and Aoife is impressed by her. A few days later, they get their acceptance letters, and they head to the academy for the welcome ceremony. Aoife worries they won't be together because they are going to be in separate dorms, but Seika tells her not to worry. He suddenly gets a strange feeling, and he asks Aoife if she can see any spirits. Aoife reveals that there are a number of dark spirits, and Seika goes to investigate. They find a huge magic circle and feel something is off, but since it could be the academy's, they decide to leave it alone, but Seika leaves behind some of his talismans. Inside the academy hall, there is a feast for the students, and Seika can't help but grab some food. Amu starts to give a commencement speech as the student representative, but as she speaks, Seika has a feeling as the magic circle is activated. He feels something approaching, and the doors are suddenly blown open, and there are some lesser demons that appear. The students panic and run. Seika sees that the demons seem to be looking for something. There are some that stay behind and fight, but Seika sees how weak they are. One of the demons approach, and Seika prepares to step in, but the demon gets cut, and Amu steps in. She uses her wind lance on the demon, and engages it in battle, but Seika notices something is off. He looks around the grounds using his talismans, and finds the caster by the circle. He warns Aoife to stay safe, and disappears, leaving only a talisman. Seika approaches the demon in the forest, trying to talk with it, but the demon calls him a fool for challenging him. He summons some more lesser demons, sending them to attack, but Seika instantly crushes 2 of them, and even traps and captures the 3rd one. The demon is impressed, introducing himself as Gallius, the metal demon. Seika attacks using his talisman, but the demon destroys it. Seika is surprised it could see his invisible talismans, and tries it again with more talismans, but they also get blocked. The demon shoots out a blade, which Seika easily dodges, but it suddenly reappears, and he realizes the demon can teleport the blades. The demon can also shoot fire, and as Seika jumps to dodge, the demon appears behind him, cutting him, and he ends up losing one of his arms. Remembering that the demons were searching for something, Seika asks what he is after, and the demon reveals that he is looking for the hero. Seika says that the hero is just a legend, but the demon insists that it's real, saying that the years of peace have caused people to forget and just think of it as a legend. He reveals he received an oracle 12 years ago, and believes Amu to be the hero. The demon continues to attack with his blades, and Seika gets impaled, and the demon finishes him off. As the demon turns to head for the hall, Seika is revealed to be completely fine. The demon is confused how he is alive, and Seika gets stabbed in the head, but says he can just revive. The demon is determined to kill him, and then stop the hero before she becomes the strongest, but Seika laughs at what it means to be the strongest. The demon attacks, but Seika dodges and floods the area, creating a whirlpool, but the demon gets away using his teleportation. He reappears, and Seika opens a gate, summoning a thunder beast that strikes him with lightning. Having drenched the demon beforehand, Seika thinks the fight is over, but as the smoke clears, the demon is missing, and he suddenly gets stabbed from behind. But Seika says he is the one that caught him, and there is a huge explosion. Despite this, the demon survives, and starts to get back up, powering up, and says that Seika must be out of his talisman soon. But Seika reveals he has plenty to spare, saying he has been diligently making them for years. Deciding to bring things to an end, Seika opens the gate to one of his strongest servants, bringing out his dragon serpent. The demon is shocked to see such a beast, saying that even the demon king wouldn't have a dragon, as it rushes at him, and crushing him with a single bite. As Seika tries to call back the dragon goes wild, and it tries to get away. Seika gets his talismans after it, and manages to herd it back into its gate. Seika is surprised it rebelled against him, thinking it must be because of his weaker state in his body. Yuki suddenly appears, wondering if it was okay for him to use so many body double talismans, but he says it was necessary to work out the demon's attack patterns. Seika returns to the hall, and Aoife is worried about him. Aoife tells him that Amu ended up taking out all 3 of the lesser demons by herself, and the other students look at her shocked, but also concerned. Seeing their looks, Seika can tell that she will end up just like him in the past. He is determined to help her become the strongest, so he can sit back and enjoy his life instead. 1 month after the demon attack, the academy has calmed back down. Seika tries being friendly with Amu, but she acts cold toward him, and completely ignores him. As Seika and Aoife are walking to class, there is a pot above them that suddenly spills, but Seika manages to teleport out of the way. Professor Cordell apologizes for spilling the pot, explaining that it is a special mixture of monster blood and minerals that he is using for his research. He was trying to move it with his magic, but ended up spilling it. He apologizes once again, and heads on his way. Seika and Aoife get to their next class. Their professor tells them that the founding anniversary is coming up, so she needs the top 2 students, Amu and Aoife, to help out with a ritual. The professor explains that they need to take the new student roster to a temple in the forest and have it blessed. Seika thinks it could be dangerous, having fought the demon there. He asks what would happen if one of the students declined, and the professor tells him he would be next in line. Hearing this, he orders Aoife to give up her spot. The other students are shocked, but Seika says that such an important ritual shouldn't be carried out by a slave. After class, he apologizes to Aoife, and she realizes that he was trying to take the attention off of Amu, who people had started to resent after her performance against the demons. She wonders if Amu is his type, but Seika says he just wants to be her friend, since she is the strongest. Aoife gets jealous hearing this, saying that she can also become strong. But Seika tells her to imagine being so strong that she is both praised and feared by everyone, saying that is what will happen to Amu. A few days later, Seika is handed the roster, and he heads off into the forest with Amu. Amu is suspicious of him, thinking he is trying to hit on her, even when he already has Aoife. Seika tells her it's all a misunderstanding, and he has nothing going on with Aoife. Amu's head suddenly hurts, and Seika notices a magic circle. They think it's strange, and it suddenly activates, transporting them into a dungeon. They are engaged by 3 lizard men, but Amu rushes at them, using her fireball, and taking them out in an instant. An ogre appears behind her, but Seika summons a wood pillar, and crushes its head. Amu finds his spell to be strange, but Seika plays it off as a spell he learned being a noble. They start exploring the dungeon, and Seika lights the way using his talismans. He leaves a trail, sticking talismans to the ceiling, and Yuki wonders what he is doing. He explains that he is leaving a trail so that his Shikigami on the surface can hopefully find him and help them get out of the dungeon. Yuki suddenly notices more monsters approaching. Amu charges at them once again, but as she fights, her head hurts, and she gets knocked out. Seika rushes to help her, using his wooden stakes to impale all the monsters, but there are just too many. Seeing that Amu is passed out, he summons a giant centipede, which is able to take out the rest of the monsters. When Amu wakes up, she is surprised all the monsters are dead. Her head hurts again, but feels better when Seika puts up a barrier. He tells her his barrier can block curses, and he wonders when she started getting the headaches. She says that it was ever since she enrolled at the academy, but doesn't think it's a curse because she hasn't noticed any marks. Seika says there are some places she can't see, which concerns her, but she ends up stripping down so he can check her body. They don't find any marks, but Seika says it could be hidden in other ways. Seeing as the barrier stops the effect, they can assume she is cursed. Amu wonders if she will have to stay in the barrier forever, but using a strand of her hair, Seika is able to create a substitute for her. The two get to know each other better, and Amu wonders about his relationship with Aoife, saying that she is in love with him. But Seika says they are just family, which Amu finds amusing, for a noble to call his slave his family. But Seika tells her how he was always treated like an outsider, and Aoife was the only one who treated him normally. Amu talks about her own family, but it seems to be a sensitive topic, so Seika asks her what she likes to do. She says that she likes to fight. She's loved fighting ever since she was young, but her parents found this weird, because most people would be scared of getting hurt or dying. She was even a part of a party that got wiped out, but she wanted more, and everyone thought there was something wrong with her. She came to the academy so that she could get stronger, hoping that if she became the strongest, fighting would get boring, and she could be more normal. But after fighting with the demons, she had too much fun, so she thinks there is something wrong with her. But Seika tells her she isn't weird, and she thanks him for letting her vent. Seika finds the exit to the dungeon, and the two continue on through the dungeon. They come to the boss room, and find a gigantic Naga monster. It spits acid out at Seika, but Amu distracts it with her wind lance, and Seika summons a metal spear to pin it down. Amu uses her fireball, causing a chain reaction and explosion. Amu takes the opening and stabs it in the head, finishing it off. After the battle, Amu hugs Seika. Overjoyed, they manage to take out a dungeon boss. They head to the treasure room, where they find a mithril sword, which Seika gives to Amu, and Seika gets a magical ring. The two finally manage to escape, and they report everything back to the professor. She didn't know there was a dungeon under the temple, and because the magic circle is gone, they aren't able to find the culprit. However, Seika pays a visit to Professor Cordell. After the demon attack, and getting sent to the dungeon, Seika realized there must have been an inside man. The professor is surprised, thinking he had gotten rid of any evidence. Seika tells him to reveal his true form, but he is actually just a human working for the demons. Looking at his ritual, Seika calls him a genius. Cordell is proud of himself, revealing it's a curse that uses light magic to kill its target from a distance under the guise of an illness. He starts gloating about how he will kill Amu with it, but Seika points out how he is protecting her. The curse is targeting those who were covered in demon blood, because Amu had killed all the demons, but Seika summons the demon that he captured, and covers himself with its blood. He becomes a target of the curse, but using a counter-curse technique from his past life, he is able to send the curse back to the professor. The professor feels the effects, and starts bleeding out. Seika is actually impressed he developed a curse from scratch in this world, but as an exorcist, curses are his specialty. After the encounter, Yuki wonders how he knew the professor was the culprit, and it turns out that his Shikigami found pollen on him, which was only from flowers near the magic circle. Having solved this problem, he hopes he can finally get back to being a normal student. He gives Aoife the magic ring, which helps her with attracting the elemental spirits. He tries being friendly with Amu, but to his surprise, she still acts coldly towards him, but has somehow warmed up toward Aoife, and he is left confused about when they became friends. But that's where this video ends. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.